Hello students, I hope it's well with you all. I am pleased once again to come to your study rooms. Welcome you all to this video session. The topic for today is a grammar concept for 2nd Sem Optional English students, Bangalore University. I am Grace Joshua, Assistant Professor, Teachers Academy Degree College, Bangalore. Dear students, by the end of this session, you will learn to distinguish between finite and non-finite verbs and also learn to find out the finite and non-finite clauses. Here are some simple definitions we've got to learn. The first definition, a verb. Of course, a verb is a word of action or a group of words that indicates action or a state of being or condition. For example, Jenny walks in the morning. Can we find the verb? Of course, the word is walk. So, verb is that part of a sentence that tells us what the subject performs, and it is considered as the heart of any English sentence. The second definition, a finite verb. A finite verb is a verb that has a subject. This means that it can be the main verb in a sentence. And it does show tense, whether it is past or present. It shows number, singular or plural. And it also includes some auxiliary verbs such as can, must, have, and be. The next definition, a non-finite verb. It is a verb that does not show any tense. In other words, you cannot tell if the sentence is in present tense or past tense, or is there a usage of future tense by looking at a non-finite verb. So here are these three definitions one should know before we learn about the next important aspects. Moving further, it's very important to learn to identify the verbs in its finite and non-finite forms. So let us understand identifying the finite and non-finite verbs. A finite verb, it shows tense. As I told you in the definition, they indicate a tense. For example, I speak Hindi, I spoke German. So we understand that finite verb, it indicates tense. It shows a tense. Second, it shows which person it belongs to. I sing, you sing, she sings. Then the third important identification is it shows number. Example, he works, they work. So it clearly indicates the number. So to conclude, I would like to say that a finite verb, it shows tense, it shows persons, it shows number, and it undergoes a change in all these three aspects. Now let us come to the non-finite verb. So what happens in the non-finite verb? It doesn't show any tense. It neither shows any number or any actions. They are used only as adjectives, nouns, and adverbs. And here I would like to tell a very important aspect that there are three types of non-finite verbs which we have to learn in detail: gerunds, infinitives, and participles. I do hope that we've got a fair understanding and difference between the finite and non-finite verbs. So let's move further to know the different types of non-finite verbs. The first one is the gerund. So what is a gerund? A gerund is that form of the verb which ends in ing, but it has a work or a force of a noun and sounds like a verb. Example, jogging is good for your health. Dear students, please pay attention here for the word jogging. The word jogging, jog, is a verb which is added and ends in ing, which is working as a noun here. So the word jogging can be replaced with another word, for example, exercise or a balanced diet, which is a noun. So in the sentence, if we are asking a question, what is good for health? The answer is jogging. Thus, the word jogging functions like a noun, though it sounds to be like a verb, or it looks like a verb in ing form. So such verbs are called as gerunds, and they are also called as verbal nouns. Now here are some of the characteristics of a gerund as I've explained to you. Gerunds are the non-finite verbs that function as a noun. Example, giving is better than receiving. They are the verbs in ing forms, as I've explained to you again. Example, paint plus ing, sing plus ing, etc. They are used to make certain compound nouns. For example, walking stick, drinking water, writing table, etc. And what is a gerund phrase? Look at this sentence given. Eating ice cream on a hot day can be a good way to cool off. Eating is the gerund and eating ice cream on a hot day is a phrase. For further details on phrases, kindly watch the other video of mine on phrases and clauses to get a clear understanding. I'm sure you have understood well about the gerund. Let us now practice some questions on the gerund. And here are some examples. Look at the first example. Dash in the desert is difficult. So can we form a gerund out of the verb called as walk? Yes, of course, it's very easy. Walking. So the answer is walking in the desert is difficult. What about the example 4? The doctor advised Robert to avoid using ghee as a cooking medium. Now here are some other examples and questions which you can exercise as you understand the concept. Moving further, I hope we understood the gerunds. Let us now know the second type of the non-finite verb, the infinitive. What is this infinitive? The infinitive is the basic form of a verb without an inflection binding to it, a particular subject or tense. For example, to respect elders is our duty. So let us understand clearly with the help of the characteristics of the infinitives. So what are these characteristics? Number 1, the infinitives are the simplest form of the verb preceded by to. For example, to plus respect, to plus give, to plus eat, and so on. The second one, it is a non-finite verb, and in a sentence, it comes along with the finite verb. For example, they refused to obey the orders. So what is the infinitive? To obey is the infinitive. And it comes along with the finite verb. The verb is refused. So which is there used in the past tense. Let me also remind you what's an infinite phrase. For example, to see jog falls is mind-boggling. So what is the infinitive? To see. To see jog falls becomes your infinitive phrase. Isn't it simple, students? I hope you got it. Let us come to a simple exercise on the infinitive. So I have given you a few examples here. You can clearly understand how we can find out the infinitive. So you've got to underline the infinitives and find out the main verb which has been already bolded. So what is the infinitive in the first example? The infinitive is to plus see, to see. And the main verb is have come, and so on. So let me once again recap the gerund and the infinitive. As we all know, a gerund is a verb used in ing form and it functions as a noun. And the infinitive is a verb preceded by to, which is a non-finite verb. Now look at the two columns carefully. I have given few examples here, or the words here on the top, and which can be used to fill in the blanks. Now I will do the first one for you and you can carry on the rest. For example, the gerund. Would you mind dash? So if you consider the above words which are there in the verb form, can you make a gerund out of those words or the verbs? So the answer can be, would you mind consider ing? Considering can become your gerund. And so also the other examples. Try to fill these examples and make yourselves better understanding. Now coming to the infinitives. For example, I don't intend dash his hard work. So look at the verbs being used there, put up in the on the above. So I can make all the words as infinitives. To agree, to allow, to ask, to decide, and etc. So what can I fix it here? The answer would be to refuse. I don't intend to refuse his hard work. So that could be an apt answer to make an infinitive. And please carry on with the other examples by yourselves. Dear students, if you are attentive, I am very sure it's very easy for you to understand. So far, we have clearly dealt with two non-finites, and here is the third one, the participle. Let me give you the definition of the participle first. So what is a participle? It is that form of a verb which partakes of the nature both of a verb and an adjective. Example, hearing the doorbell, the child was scared. There are two types of participles. They are the present participle and the past participle. For example, a rolling stone gathers no moss, which is in a present participle. The verb ends in ing and represents an action as going on or incomplete or imperfect. Look at the second example. Deceived by hunger, he stole a piece of bread. That's a past participle. Look at the verb there. The verb ends in ed, or sometimes the verb might also end in d, t, en, or n, which represents a completed action or state of the thing being spoken of. Dear students, please pay attention. The present participle also is like the gerund, the verb in the ing, but the difference is the gerund functions as a noun, whereas the participle works as an adjective. Example, I can hear the school choir practicing in the music hall. So we can clearly understand that the present participle also works as a verb or looks like the gerund, but it works or functions as an adjective. Here are the characteristics of the present participle. They are verbs ending in ing. For example, we met a girl selling flowers. So, girl selling flowers. It functions as an adjective in the sentence. For example, loudly knocking, child thinking, coat mending. And the third characteristic feature is they describe an unfinished action. And they can be used with all the tenses, and the time of action is shown by the finite verb in the sentence. For example, I can experience the online classes training the students a lot. Please understand that it is not a noun, but it's working as an adjective. Dear students, here are some exercises on the present participle. So we've got to underline the present participle and bold the main verb. The first example, the police saw is the main verb. A thief escaping is the present participle on a bike. And look at the other examples and it's very clear that you can understand. Dear students, kindly pay attention to the next one, that is the past participle. They are the verbs in the past form which end in ed, d, t, en or n, functioning like the adjective in the sentence, which I have already explained to you by the definition. I'm sorry, here the example, the wind swept away the fallen leaves. It's not the wind has swept away the fallen leaves. And here are the characteristics of the past participle. They are verbs ending in ed, d, t, en, o, n. Lessons learnt easily or soon forgotten. Look at that en at the end of that verb. So that is the past participle which is being used as a verb form. They function as adjectives in the sentences. As I already gave you the previous examples in the present participle, loudly knocking, knocked, child thinking, thought, coat making, made. And they describe, of course, a complete action. And they can be used with all tenses, and the time of action is shown by the finite verb in the sentence. Let us underline the past participle and bold the main verb in the following sentences. The first one is here. Driven by hunger is the past participle. The elephant herd entered is the verb. The sugarcane fields. So here is the past participle verb which is being used as a non-finite verb. And here are the other examples you can go through and understand clearly. I hope we have well understood the above topic, and unless we are clear on the above topic, it's difficult to further continue, and therefore I suggest to get a good understanding of the above topic. And I would like to continue further here to learn about the finite and non-finite clauses. Here we are. Dear students, we clearly understood what's a phrase, and here is the most important aspect to be understood once again, the clause. In my previous video sessions, I have clearly dealt in detail, and however, as a recap in continuation, I once again would like to remind you all what is a clause. A clause is a group of words that contains both a subject and a predicate. And that's what I mean to say a finite verb. And why should one learn clauses? It gives us a clear understanding and how to build sentences. And there are three types of clauses: the principal clause, the coordinate clause, which has equal ranking of principal clauses on either of the sides, and they are connected with the help of the 7 coordinating conjunctions, and one of the easier ways to remember them are to memorize the word fanboys and subordinate clause. So these are the 3 clauses one should know about trying to understand how to make out the types of clauses. Let me draw your attention to the finite and non-finite clauses. We well understood in detail what are finite and non-finite verbs in the previous video presentation. Therefore, I'm sure it's very easy to understand what are these clauses now. Now, what are these finite and non-finite clauses? The first one, a finite clause has a primary verb as its main verb. It's found in a relative clause or a noun clause embedded within a main clause. And the non-finite clause is a verb element which has a non-finite verb phrase. Usually, it has non-finite elements such as the ing participle or the ed participle or the to infinitive, as we have clearly understood on the above. And these participle clauses mostly occur as noun complements. Dear students, here is a third form of clause which is called as the verbless clause. In English grammar, a verbless clause is a clause-like construction in which a verb element is implied but not present. Such clauses are usually adverbial, and the omitted verb is a form of be verb. Example: too tall to enter the room, he remained standing at the door. So sometimes we find some sentences devoid of the first part of the sentence which I have highlighted there, because he is. So here we don't find the actual verb, and such clauses are called as verbless clauses. So how do I read it? I just read it like this. Too tall to enter the room, he remained standing at the door. But actually the sentence is, because he is too tall to enter the room, he remained standing at the door. So the omitted verb is actually here is the verbless clause. And here are other few examples which I have added here. I hope you have understood the concept so far. And now we have come to a very important point to understand the same based on the previous question papers. The questions are very simple and easily identifiable. And it is actually trying to identify a finite clause and a non-finite clause along with the verbless clause in the following sentences, which has been allotted for 3 marks for your final exam. Here are the examples based on the years. The first one, he painted the house. Now, I do understand it is a finite clause. That's why I have indicated with FC, finite clause, because it's a finite verb which is being used there. Look at the second example. I need to meet them. What is to meet? It is a non-finite verb being used in the sentence. So, therefore, this is a non-finite clause. And so also the other examples given below. Please go through other questions and I'm sure it's just a cakewalk for you guys. Here are a few more questions from the previous papers, and if you understand them and able to identify them, I'm sure you will do it very easily in your exam. Dear students, I would like to tell you that understanding clauses can help build sentences. And here are some questions on clause definitions. A finite clause with an example. Of course, a finite clause whose verb element is a finite verb phrase. She works very hard. Define a non-finite clause with an example. Those are verb elements in a non-finite verb phrase such as the gerund, the participle or the infinitive. And the third one is a verbless clause with an example. It's a clause-like construction in which a verb element is implied but not present and it doesn't have a subject. So here are some of the definitions which have been repeatedly asked for the past years. Please learn the definitions so that you can easily write the answers. Dear students, here we come to the end of this session on finites and non-finites, and I hope that this session has enriched your learning. I'm sure with some good practice, you will be able to easily crack the questions. I have given all the recent questions on each topic and the marks allotted. I would also like you to know that there are other video presentations on similar topics for this semester. So far, in all the grammar presentations from section E, I have covered 15 marks and you can definitely score all the marks. I'm sure you will not miss these. Thank you for the opportunity. If you like it, please share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel for more topics to come, made easy for your exams. See you soon with the next topic. God bless you.